Hey guys, Tommy G, Middle-Aged Millennial, and coming to you from the glorious Gold Coast. Just look behind me right now. I mean, is that magical or what? Stunning, right? And we're going to do a Quickfire 20 with Dr. Rouse getting into the house as he is right now. So I'm going to bring him on and not waste too much time pontificating as I am very good at doing. Of course, once we can get him on, so he'll be connecting. There we go, let's connect. God, look at that light. Isn't that just beautiful behind here? All right, don't know which way to go. Okay, so Pete's coming into the house. Last week, and it's connecting now. Hey, how's it going, big guy?
Good.
Good. All right.
How's the sound quality?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Not a problem. All right. Right, Pete. So we're going to do a quick fight. Hey, look, I'm sorry. Look, I know Queenstown is beautiful, but right now, I mean, that's not too bad, right? Come on.
Do you want to go there?
Hey, look, we've got like 20 minutes. There we go. Look at this. Oh, it's a water off. Okay, well, let people vote.
Lake versus vote. Ocean.
Yeah, and better be careful which way she votes. So
I know which way she's going to vote.
Yeah, one all.
Queenstown all the way.
Or she's going to gut me and just go with Queenstown.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, look, we've got now about 17 minutes left. Last week we talked about cardio, Pete, and it was a big session about supplements, being genetically predisposed. Queenstown all the way. Danielle, obviously one of yours.
My niece.
It's obviously one of yours.
Yeah.
So the A team. We got anxious. I don't want to hurt feelings here. Oh, come on.
You mean you don't want to hurt Tommy's feelings?
What? Yeah, right, okay, we'll see. So, food is the next area. We touched on it last week, getting dark here. And I wanted to go a bit deeper on nutrition for cardio support. Once again, because this could connect to being genetically predisposed to certain things, as well as everything you know about biochemistry, let alone genetics. So someone comes to you and they say, hey, look, I've got heart disease. I've got an occlusion of this percentage. My CRP is above 1, my HSCRP, or whatever marker there is. What would you advise them to do with their food, Pete?
Well, I like to individualize it first off. So we look at the genetic tests we discussed, and then we look at certain blood markers that we've talked about before in the past as well. And I think we're going to go into a little bit more deeper down the line. So once we can individualize, then we can say, okay, it's more about the ratio makeup that we're looking at for the individual for one thing. Now, if they're more predisposed to insulin sensitivity issues, then we want to address kind of the carbohydrate intake, particularly more processed carb coming in, but also total carbohydrate loading as well does have an effect.
Wow.
So it's a real kind of issue with the carbohydrates we discussed last week with the cardiovascular disease and the link to insulin, sugar management, insulin sensitivity. So all that has to kind of play into the equation when you're working out a nutritional profile. What I like to do is say, okay, here's the foods that you should be eating, here's the ones you shouldn't be eating, and then we'll customize the ratios for you of what you should be eating down to process that down.
Right.
So you have your four basic groups, which is your carbohydrates, which includes sugars and all that kind of stuff. Your proteins, your fats, and of course the outwinger there is the alcohol, which is the fourth, but not really counted. So your three primary, exactly. So your three primary is going to be your carb, protein, and your fats. Okay.
So well, I mean, they're the three macros anyway, right? I mean, there's nothing else we can eat.
Those are three we're going to. Well, then when we look at the carbohydrates, we want to look at fiber intake as well, because fiber is so important for feeding the gut. So you're going to look at the mixture of fibers that you're going to bring in there to feed the gut bacteria as well, because that has a huge effect on the cardiac health as well with the gut bacteria. So the gut connection to cardiac health is enormous as well, which we haven't touched on, which we'll not touch on today for obvious reasons. It's going to be too long.
It's deep. It's big, yeah.
But, remember, where's the majority of your immune system coming from? Your gut.
Right, the lining of the bacteria, right, before it hits the immune system.
Well, most of the immune system lays in the gut. Well, that's it. It's the part of your body that is connected to the outside world, to the inside world. So that mucosal barrier has to be so well protected. And when you have issues with that barrier, then that can cause a whole lot of immune-related issues, inflammation, and we know inflammation connection to coronary heart disease is enormous as well.
Right.
And there's the influence there that can come into it from, the gut bacteria causing issues with cardiovascular disease as well. So when we look at carbohydrate intake, we're looking at fiber as well. So the fiber intake is important, and the type of fibers, and then fermented foods come into fermented carbohydrate sources, vegetable sources come into that as well. So when we're talking carbohydrates, we're not talking bagels and rice and that kind of thing, which is the things they actually want to avoid. So number one thing,
bad carb.
Yeah, the one thing I tell people is, okay, these are the things you want to avoid, and it's not about carbohydrates; it's about all the other stuff that's in it, that pro-inflammatory and I mean the carbohydrate load. Of course, we know bread, of course, is huge on glycemic load and glycemic index. Yeah. So there is a difference between the two, but on both scales, it's very, very high. So. She's talking about the chocolate here. So chocolate's always good for heart disease, okay? No matter what.
Yeah. Or get it with stevia instead of sugar, refined sugar. Yeah?
Yeah, or get the Swiss stuff at 99% or 100%. The 100% Swiss stuff will be fine. Yeah, good stuff. I saw you 99% there.
I'm at 90, and I've got an 85 organic from Black and whatever it is right now, which actually I like. It's crunchier, and it's got a bit more of a different bite to it than the Lent. Anyway.
We don't have that 99 here, unfortunately, not what I can see.
Right.
Okay, so I'm totally off channel. And just quiet.
Just
hush.
Quiet.
Okay, yeah. We're talking about the fiber, and the carbohydrates coming in from vegetable primarily, and we want to take in some fermented vegetable intake will be good in that mixture. But the things we want to really avoid is the grains, which is breads, pastas, rice, all that kind of whole family right through the whole, we're not just talking wheat. And people will talk about gluten intolerance and stuff like that, which is, hum and ha about that. But the important part is the entire, you've got a helicopter going across the past background there, beautiful. So we're talking about, the inflammation effect from grains is really important.
So what is it? I mean, Dr. William Davis also really is big on the grain thing with regards to like getting your calcium score down, like get rid of grains. You're saying
because of inflammation basis. One part is the inflammation.
Is it because of the chemicals, or is it because of because it's refined? They've taken the husks and the outer parts off the wheat, or what's going on?
The husk can be worse because it actually contains more of those protective chemicals. So the plants, particularly in this case grains, have a particular chemicals that consist of that will designed to basically prevent the animal from eating it. Well, if it does eat it, it kills it or makes it sick. So that's the particular mechanism that you see in a lot of plant matter. But grains have got a little bit stronger defense system. That's why do you look at grains? They tell you to eat whole unprocessed foods.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you eat unprocessed wheat? You can't. You can't eat unprocessed wheat. It has to be processed. But they're telling you should eat it on the food. If you have a look at the food pyramid, there's a big part of the food pyramid is your breads and stuff. But then on another breath, they tell you don't eat processed foods. Well, the only way you can eat it is if it's processed.
Right. So it's got the husks and everything on it. It's been saying, okay, here's the kernel, basically.
Go chew that and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So, look, that's one thing I look at, the grains. Initially, I look at legumes as a big one too. I find is important. So your beans, peas, all that kind of family.
So they're good or bad?
Bad.
Why?
They're similar chemicals to the, not as potent and not to the same degree, but they're almost as bad as the grains as far as that's concerned. So
That's
if
amazing,
someone come over,
because like Dan Buettner from where he goes around to the blue zones and longevity, and he's become a big proponent of eating beans or legumes now, and because he's seen all these long-living people eating beans, and he feels obviously it's a big well,
are they?
I don't know. He eats lots of beans, I know that, and I think it's because of what he learnt off of them when I've heard him interviewed. And it's become a big part of his diet because of the protein and fibre aspect.
Well, the fibre comes into it. That maybe that neglects some of the negative effects, because the fibre content is something I did talk about, which is important that you get in there. Now, fibre is not so much for, people talk about fibre pushing your stool through and stuff like that. Not that kind of fibre. You don't want too much of that kind of fibre. You want the feeding fibre, the fibre that's going to feed the bacteria rather than you're trying to push anything through. The intestinal colon.
Doing the sweeping, not that fibre that does the sweeping through, but the insoluble or soluble fibre we're talking about here.
Well, you want both.
Right. Okay.
You do want both, and you want as much variation as possible. So that's why it's important, and that's kind of the other key I kind of push on is get a variety of your vegetables coming in. Notice I don't say too much fruit, because fructose is going to be a lot harder process for the liver, and then it has an effect on your triglycerides, and it's a negative effect on your body if you're taking too much of the fructose, and especially when you're talking about addressing someone who potentially has coronary heart disease or have high risk factors. So you want to be careful of the fructose intake, because remember the fructose has to be processed through the liver.
Right. So the sugar, so sucrose, which is like your normal table sugar stuff.
That doesn't have to be processed. Well, that's 50-50, right? So so
fructose and sucrose.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be processed through the liver the same way compared to just fruit. And remember, fruit today is a lot higher in fructose than it was 100 years ago, and 200 years ago, and 1,000 years ago. So, and from what I've seen, it has a lower fiber content. It still has fiber, of course, but it has a lower fiber content because somewhere through that selective breeding, it's not genetically modified, but through selective breeding, they've made it much more sweet and lowered that fiber.
To make it more addictive?
Yeah, selling point, marketing.
Possibly selling, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, flavour. People got the sweet tooth.
But if you're going to get sugar, I mean, firstly, we need a certain amount of sugar, right? Because our brain apparently needs.
Well, we're talking
25%
carbohydrates.
Consumed.
Well, don't confuse sugar. Sugar, when I say carbohydrates, because sugar, most people think of that being processed table sugar, fructose, high fructose corn syrup, that kind of thing.
Right. Oh, yeah, which is really bad. And that's everywhere. HFCS, yeah?
And then that's got additional, with the GMO component with that too.
Crap, all the other crap that's going to kill you slowly. So, all right. So we've got to have the right amount of sugar, but sugar attached, like fructose, is usually therefore attached to fruit fiber, and you get less of a spike. Is it the spike in insulin that causes the problem, or is it the amount?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Okay.
The spike can be a big issue.
Yep.
And that's also, there can be a genetic factor to that, how your body responds to that, which you can compensate for through epigenetic adaptation to that. But the big, probably, I find the load is probably the bigger factor there first. Yeah, the spikes are bad.
So not glycemic index, we're not talking GI, we're talking GL, we're talking glycemic load. So how much rather than how intense.
Exactly. I mean, okay, look at dates, for example. I like my dates. I get the really good organic dates that I get here. And if you ate a whole pack of dates, your sugar spike would be like through the roof. You can't see me pointing at it, but it'd be through the roof. But then if you ate one, what would happen?
Oh, wouldn't go through the roof.
A dent. It will be a dent. That's how much. Because remember, there's also a lot of fibre in dates too. So you're taking in one date or two dates, which is what I usually eat. And I usually take that in after training. Then you're going to see, it's basically a dent in that spiking of the blood sugar, if that, because I'm taking it post-training. So, your insulin sensitivity is higher after training, so you may be able to kind of neglect some of that spike anyway, which wouldn't be anything to worry about. However, if I had a whole box of them, or a whole pack of them, which is like 500 grams, then you're talking, through the roof. And then you're looking at loading over the entire day, so overall carbohydrate loading. So if you just keep taxing your body with all this carbohydrate coming in, it has to process, especially if it's fructose as well, which means it has to process through the liver as well, then that's going to create such a load on you that can be, ongoing. That can cause those insulin management issues that we talked about.
Right, and then obesity and whatever. Just on that though, then just want to make sure people understand carbs, because it's so often people get confused, and we're talking about refined carbs versus complex or simple carbs versus complex carbs like veg. Veg is complex carb.
That's what I tell people to go for. Go for your carbohydrates. All should come from vegetables.
All should come from vegetables. All your carbs from veg.
Yeah.
Right. So you
can have, like a treat, you can have a little bit of fruit in there. But my preference is having berries and stuff like that. But your carbohydrates,
raspberries.
Yeah, make sure they're organic or chemical free, because the berries are one of the worst for pesticides.
Well, strawberries are super bad, right?
Yeah, all the berries are pretty bad. I think. Yep, the Dirty Dozen. Look it up, guys. I think blueberries is on that same list.
And the Clean 15. And the Clean 15 is the other one.
But if you're going organic or biodynamic, then chances are you're getting pretty clean product.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the majority, I just tell people go for the vegetables that's on your allowed list, which is pretty much most everything. Grains aren't a vegetable, so you've eliminated on the vegetable list. I hand out a sheet which has about, I do this on purpose. I give them a sheet.
Right.
Because, I send it to them in a PDF form, because if I printed it out, it would be too long, because it's about 6 pages long.
Right.
Because the first thing I get people to say, if I cut out grains and cut out this, what can I eat? Well, here's a list of 2,000 vegetables to start with.
Yeah, right. And
I'm sure you can find some locally.
And we can go a step further if you want to really go from good to great, better to best. If we did a pH 360 analysis, personal 360, then you'd start to see a list of what the best vegetables are for you.
And you can break it down to ideal. For me, nightshades aren't great for me, particularly eggplant. So, those nightshades I generally leave out initially, and then reintroduce later on, just to see how the person responds, especially when we're talking about a cardiac patient, because if they are responding to nightshades, there can be an inflammation response, and that's the type of thing you really want to reduce. Are they going to miss nightshades that much? Probably not.
Which ones are the nightshades again?
Well, you've got the eggplant, tomato, potatoes, that kind of...
All the stuff that grows at night.
Stuff
that grows at night, apparently.
Well, yeah. The nightshades most commonly used, as I said, is the most 3 common ones. Your potato, your tomatoes, and your eggplant. I think those are the top 3 commonly used ones.
Right. Okay.
The most common. There are others, they've got your bell peppers and stuff like that in there too, but I'm talking about quantity eaten in the world. You probably find those are the top 3, particularly tomatoes. And I guess potatoes too. More people are going towards the sweet. Yeah, they want to keep away from. Temporarily, you can introduce them back in again later on, just for the sake of now. You want to remove them to remove any potential inflammation, because your goal of your diet mainly is to remove inflammation, and that will have an effect on all those markers that we talked about before. The biomarkers, including cholesterol, because if you reduce inflammation, the cholesterol response is going to be reduced.
Right. Okay.
Remember, when we're talking about cholesterol, we're talking LDL, HDL, which are transporters of cholesterol. So people's mindset, LDL is a cholesterol. It's not. It's a transporter.
It's not a transporter,
basically, yeah. So if you think about it this way, LDL transports out, HDL transports back around to recycle. So that's the easiest way to think about it. So if you've got a ratio, it goes down.
LDL, but it's a small particle LDL that's the problem, right?
Well, not only that, it's too much ratio. It's the ratio as well gets way out of control too, because then the body can't start recycling, and then you get damage and oxidation occurring.
What's the ideal ratio? 5 to 1 or 3 to 1?
No, I think it's a 3 to 1, I believe.
3 HDL to 1 LDL.
No.
Is that
Oh,
right?
okay.
No?
See, a lot of mixed research on this.
Right. Okay.
So what I've been reading is people saying 3-to-1. Same thing with blood pressure. Interesting
Right.
thing about blood pressure is I think the general consensus in the primary market, in the primary healthcare field, is if you're below 140 over, is it 90? I believe. It's
Right.
like, yes, that's the top figure, or 85, might be 85, 90.
Right.
When you actually start digging into the research, ideally you want to be below 115 over 70 is the ideal.
Right.
When you look at the research, but
Okay.
their numbers for the general population is much higher. So it's the same thing I found with
Yes.
cholesterol. Was
They moved it higher. They moved it higher.
Well, what they do with total cholesterol, what do? They reduce the number. They keep bringing that number down, total cholesterol, how much total cholesterol you have. That's not as big a concern as the ratio, and what we're talking about also is the fraction or the particle size. And that particle size, as we talked about, the insulin management, the sugar intake has a huge influence on that small particle and oxidation damage there, along with the inflammation, factors that go into that. So, addressing the inflammation is going to be a big part towards reducing that. So that's why we reduce all those foods that we've been talking about. But then
the HSCRP then is really important as a check. And was it O1B or something? APO1B for checking sugar over the last few months?
Yeah, that's okay for like a general broad spectrum marker over, like a period of 3 months, 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Very broad. And then you have your standardized, insulin, and then your standardized blood glucose fasted. But the gold standard test is the OGTT, which is the old glucose tolerance test, which is that 2-hour test where you take a glucose syrup and then you test your blood sugars over that 2-hour period to look at your insulin response. That should be the gold standard. It's very rarely used, only in cases where practitioner may find that the person is already diabetic. If you use that, you can actually predict that way ahead of time. And we're talking type 2 diabetes, guys, before anybody kind of jumps on here. So, it can be
getting a fair bit of love from Anne there.
Of course.
Just to better acknowledge it, because it's the second time she's done that. So don't want to know it's not appreciated to get our score up on this live.
Okay, yeah. So now she put me off my train of thought. She's doing well today.
She does that to me.
I haven't had enough coffee today. See, I've only got water here. I'm at the other place, so I actually didn't turn the coffee machine on.
So, mate, while you're taking a drink, so getting back to it then, and I know you're tight for time as well, so let us know when you've got to kind of pull. But grains out. Okay, cool. Grains are out.
Yeah.
Nightshades, probably reduce or get them out. So that's all the stuff that grows at night. Like
I say get them out completely,
tomatoes,
temporarily.
Temporarily. Okay.
To reintroduce later. It's almost like an elimination diet, but why not get rid of them for now? If you're talking cardiovascular risk, you're talking life and death in a lot of cases. So why not just get rid of it for now? We can introduce later on once you get things under control and see which foods you react to. Why not just get rid of it just in case?
Beautiful. This is using food as medicine, like good old Hippocrates said, the way it should be. So, so that's out. Is there anything else that's out? Fat. I haven't heard you. It was animal fat. I haven't heard the animal fat, saturated fats yet.
Okay, so fats. The main one is your trans fatty acids, especially man-made, because they are natural forming trans fatty acids, right? CLA, which is conjugated linoleic acid, that's actually a trans fat, naturally forming trans fat in a way. So that's a good fat. But your processed fats and stuff, which is come into trans fats, that's one of the things that cause heart disease to be one of the #1 killers in the world, is the introduction of trans fats as well. So pushing the highest.
Example of trans fats, for example.
Well, margarine. Anybody eating margarine still out there?
Oh God.
I just don't know where to even go there, but a lot of.
Look it up on Google, guys. Trans fats.
Yeah, trans fats is out there. When you overheat some of these vegetable fats and too. So vegetable fats generally out as a main.
Vegetable oils,
yeah.
vegetable fats.
Yeah,
Right.
olive
Oh, well,
oils, of course, is not part of that because it's not a vegetable, vegetable oil per se. So olives are okay. So olive oil is okay as long as you don't cook with it. You're having that
nuts?
raw.
What about all the oil on nuts?
I'm not a big fan of nuts, mainly because of the gastrointestinal problem with that. So often I'm dealing with cardiac patients. They're probably not very healthy, so we're probably looking at unhealthy gut. So I removed them for a while.
Okay.
Important thing note there is that peanuts aren't nuts either, so they're part of the legume family.
They're like a bean more so, yeah.
Yeah,
Shaped like a bean.
yeah,
Okay.
and then your cashews aren't truly a nut because they're actually related to the mango family.
Oh, get out.
They're kind of like
Wow.
they're in the hybrid family there. So your cashew nuts
Wow.
are probably okay-ish, but I'm just saying that they're not truly a nut. So a lot of people think nuts,
Right.
they're not necessarily nuts. Peanuts
Right.
are terrible. Keep away from
Right. But they're
peanuts.
big calories. Okay. All right.
Well,
And
calorie, it's a legume, toxins, they've got natural biotoxins occurring in there. And then you got the high concentration of molds in there as well, potential.
oh yeah, on peanuts.
Fungi molds is huge in nuts, and people don't even realize how bad it is.
On nuts in general. Okay.
Yeah.
Hazelnuts are number one on my pH list. It's like
Hazelnuts are good.
Food.
Hazelnuts and almonds are kind of like okay, but do you really need them? That's the question. Do you really, really need them?
Well, only if you're using them as maybe as medicine, or do you need them? I don't know. It's like
it's one of those things.
Most
Okay, maybe
to me, for some reason, according to
put it this way,
science.
I'd rather you eat that than go out and have a candy bar or something like that. So if it's going to help satisfy you for that, then I think go ahead. It's something convenient you can carry around easy enough. But otherwise, try to avoid nuts to a certain degree, to too much.
But what about walnuts? Walnuts and Brazil nuts are high in omega-3, which is great for the heart, no?
Short chain or long chain?
You're the expert.
I'm asking you. Well, I'm asking. See,
I don't know.
omega-3. We've talked about omega-3 briefly, but you're talking. I mean, you can convert it to long chain, but it's also the ratio too. Omega-6 and omega-3 in there as well, and omega-9 as well, actually. So it's the ratios and also conversion. So when you actually take in the conversion of your omega-3 to long chain compared to the omega-6 ratio, once it's converted, then the ratio is a little skewed. If you look at the ratio standardized, then it looks pretty good. But then you've got to take into account that omega-3, if it's a short chain omega-3, you only got maybe 10% conversion to long chain. So then
the ratio needs to be what, 5 to 1? Is it 5?
Well, that's the 3 to 1. Actually, it's the 3 to 1 for your blood chemistry work. We're looking at a 3 to 1 ratio. Not necessarily what you're taking in. 3 omega-6 to 1 omega-3.
Got it. Okay.
So it's very easy to get omega-6. So people need to focus more on omega-3 than omega-6, though.
And
because
the
it is so
plant
easy.
version versus the, let's say, fish. I mean, fish are getting it from algae. Krill's getting it from algae.
But they've got the animals you're eating converted that to long chain for you. So you've already
they've already done the hard work.
They've done all that work. So you're getting long chain there. So that's why make sure it's grass-fed, grain-fed cattle isn't going to be any good. Wild game is fantastic, unless it's super lean. If you're looking at kangaroo meat is so lean. The fatty acid ratio on that is so low because of the fact that it's so lean.
Canadian salmon. I got some sockeye wild caught.
Stewart Island salmon.
That wouldn't be New Zealand by any chance.
Yeah, Stewart Island's the third island of New Zealand.
See if I can cast it that far to New Zealand.
Well, it's down toward the Antarctic.
Okay.
So your salmons and stuff. Everybody knows salmon's really good at omega-3, but then we talk about fish being contaminated as well. So contamination of fish in the oceans is a big concern. So you can be careful if you're sourcing. Or mercury
poisoning,
radiation, Fukushima, radioactive materials. Look at coming out. If you've been to Santa Monica, you look at what's coming out of those pipes down towards Malibu.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah, you can't even swim in some of that water there. You can't swim in Santa Monica Ocean most of the time because of the contamination.
So you come out looking like the Toxic Avenger. Beautiful. So alpha toxins. We've got Elisa here talking about alpha toxins. I don't know what that means. And then Anne saying, TG, are you eating meat now? No. Well, yes, fish meat only.
I'm trying.
Only fish and only salmon at the moment, really.
Oh, is that it?
What's that?
Is that all you're eating?
Yeah,
Is
well,
you're only
I'm
back
eating
to fish.
salmon.
I thought you were introducing some. I thought you were introducing some lamb there.
No, I experimented at your place because you had me at gunpoint, so to speak. So I thought I better eat it and keep the host happy.
Gunpoint with the with the barbecue.
There we go. Yeah. So, but look, you know what? The thing is, I didn't miss it. I had it and I thought, no, I don't miss it as much as I thought I would. But I do love the fish. The salmon
Nick
you cooked was awesome for breakfast. That was that was beautiful. Yeah.
Nick was asking about algae as a source of EPA DHA source. It's a possible source. It's very difficult to get in the quantity that you need. There are some companies doing the DHA algae source in the liposomal delivery, which is kind of good, but it's not quite the same as the EPA DHA ratio you're getting from your fish oils, for one. And the quantities you can get in there it's very difficult, and it makes it much more expensive to get in as well. But it's a possibility if someone's a true vegetarian. Is algae vegan allowed? You know, because it's kind of in that. You know, it depends on the level of veganism you were tied into. If veganism's a religion for you, then maybe not.
Yeah, no, and look, I'm a woofapib, as I think Dr. Joel Kahn calls it, whole food, plant-based, and as Dr. Longo would say, and I'm on the 5-day FMD right now by Prolon, his company, he's saying be vegan, he means whole food, plant-based, with some fish added, and that's what I'm doing, actually. And as being of Mediterranean heritage as well, it probably fits me genetically. All the genetic tests I've done keep coming up with fish, salmon at the top, oily fish, and veg. You know, so that's what I'm eating.
Well, coming back to, to kind of wrap up what we're talking about, though, that's what people ask me, you know, a diet type, right? Okay. So, and this is like on the run, so I want to give them the most simplified 3 kind of guidelines to go by when they're looking at the diet.
Yep.
Zone, which means 40, 30, 30. Okay.
40, 30, 30.
Yeah, so it's carb, protein, and fat. So 40, 30, 30 ratio. Okay.
Right. Well,
and that's a very generalized guideline.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's it, but this is a very quick guideline.
It's the
Mediterranean
average.
And then I say Mediterranean paleo. So the paleo removes some of the foods that you shouldn't be eating in there, but keep it on kind of like similar
grains.
to them.
Grains are out, therefore.
Yeah.
And
So the Mediterranean paleo would be kind of a, you know, a cleaner version of that, and then you do it in that zone ratio, and that's pretty much, if you stick to that, I mean, that's kind of a good basic guideline to keep it simple. And the thing is to keep it as simple as possible for people.
Well, I did a post earlier on this week about the diet championships by World News, whoever it is in the US, and it seems Mediterranean won just about all the categories as the diet that the doctors are saying that you're going to have to pick one. If we have to pick a diet, guys, it's one size fits a number of you, most of you. Then Mediterranean seem to come out on top, ahead of vegan and way ahead of like keto and all the other stuff. Like
well, keto can be very, very good for medical conditions, for one.
For medicine, yes, agreed.
And then also
cancer.
Yeah, cancer.
A few others.
Yeah, well, you got any kind of brain disorders, Alzheimer's as well goes in there, and then you have people who are having a lot of seizures. Seizures, you know, fantastic for that. But then also very, very effective for rapid fat loss and weight loss if you need to kind of drop body fat quickly. But then most people are doing it incorrectly anyway. I find people don't do it right. So it's a harder diet to follow correctly for most people.
Right.
So that's why I like saying the zone Mediterranean paleo is because it's kind of it's an easier baseline to kind of go from.
Okay.
If you look at the standard American diet, it's the ratios are way out of
Oh,
whack.
God.
Especially
Oh,
with females. So the female
Well,
protein
it's full of
intake is way
toxins
too
as
low.
well, right? It's full of poison
that
as
too.
well.
In America, yeah, you got the toxin coming in, but your carbohydrates usually are like 60+%, which is far too high. That 40% mark is like the top mark.
Top mark.
I usually
right.
reduce it from there, go down from there. So that's like my top mark,
Wow.
and then I'd
Wow.
reduce it from there to keep it simple. So
Right.
personally, I don't take a lot of carbohydrates in when you minus out the insoluble fiber. So my total
Yep.
carbohydrate intake may be on the outside 150 grams per day.
Right. But once again, you're talking about plant carbohydrate, vegetables, are you not?
Personally, when I'm talking about
Or-
carbohydrates, I'm talking plant-based, yeah. So,
Right.
sweet potato, what we call
Fruit,
here in New Zealand,
veg.
kumara. I only eat probably half a kumara,
Oh,
and then I have
love
all the rest
those.
of-
They're awesome.
Yeah,
They were
they're better
awesome.
than sweet
Yeah.
potato, aren't they?
Yeah, better than sweet potato as well.
Yeah, much nicer.
Yeah.
So, like I'm eating a little bit of sweet potato in there. I'm saying sweet potato, it's kumara here in New Zealand. And then I'll have my vegetables. I'm having my fermented vegetables, which you saw, which is like kimchi and the sauerkraut. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So kind of getting all that kind of stuff in there to mix it up to the carbohydrate sources.
Great. Awesome chunk of information there on a quick fire. Thanks.
I'm
thanks, Pete.
talking about food. I've got to go start the barbecue now.
I can hear there's some complaining going on. All right, mate.
There's
Thanks
the kids
again.
playing
That
in the
was.
pool.
Oh, okay. Okay. Look, thanks. Some great information there for people in general to take on with regards to cardiovascular health from a nutritional perspective. We'll take a different angle next week at some stage. I'm guessing we're probably going to move into cancer as well, Pete, in the next maybe couple of
We
weeks.
might get censored on that one again, huh?
Oh, God. Yeah, that'll be interesting. So, all right,
So
mate,
actually,
I'm going to let you go.
remember,
Yeah, go on.
I'm on tomorrow with Ian tomorrow morning at my time, 9 a.m. tomorrow my time. So that'll be 9 o'clock is 2 p.m.
7 a.m.?
West Coast time.
All right, and 7 a.m. my time. Sweet. I'll be up for watching that one. Cool. And guys, we also have tomorrow Anne Western Murphy talking about nutrition and food. And
What time is that going to be tomorrow?
That is going to be 10 a.m.
Change it a little
here, which is
Okay.
12 p.m. yours, which is 8 p.m. on the east coast of the US.
Okay.
5 p.m. is Anne's. Okay, terrific. East Coast.
5 p.m. East Coast time, right?
Yeah, in the US.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks, Pete. And remember, to
Okay.
enjoy life right here, right now.
Today.
Woo! Okay. See you on the next one, guys. Bye. Thanks, Pete.
Bye.
Bye.